Man, did Teddy wake up?
Tell Becky to be quiet. We're live right now. I heard coughing in the background.
Oh. Matt said no coffee. Thank you.
Hey, you hear that? Hear the music in the background?
Yeah, I hear it kind of fading out.
How many months have I been saying that I was going to add that?
It's still going, man. It sounds great.
Thank you.
Man, my hair looks wild. I look like Flying Bryan after a night lighted up at Rampage. Yeah. I almost got my Bryan mullet here. I'm just like a little shaverooski on the side there. But Matt, before we talk Flying Bryan and the rest of the boys at AEW, hello, everybody. Welcome to a rancid celebrating, a baby screaming, an American Dragon debuting. That was more of a cat than a dragon. Matt, we're talking PWI 500 and doing a little debate-a-rooski. It's the episode. It's right now. It's a Brothers of Discussion. We're talking the future of professional wrestling, the past year in professional wrestling, since that's how this PWI 500 is built. Matt, maybe we'll make a little time for Mick Foley dropping some harsh truth bombs on a company that he loved and worked for. And Matt, a company that you and I have given quite a bit of money to if you check out our t-shirt collection and former Royal Rumble ticket stubs. Matt, we're going to do that. Maybe not all that and more. All that before we fall asleep for nap time. We are in the East Coast. Rampage just ended here at 11 p.m. Matt.
It's bedtime.
It is spicy. It's another week. Hope you're geared up, man. How you doing over there?
I'm doing good. You asked, I think, like, maybe it was at the birthday party, but you asked, like, within the last couple of weeks, if Eddie tucks her chin when we do, playful power bombs onto, like, the bed.
Yeah.
At that time, I said, no, she did not. But today, I spun little Teddy around, like, picked him up, spun him around.
Newborn baby Teddy.
Yeah. Almost 4-month-old. First thing he did, he tucked the chin.
I guess one of the babies you're watching wrestling with, and the other one, I don't know, man. Doesn't bode well for Eddie.
He did put his tongue out, though, so that could have been dangerous.
Luckily, he doesn't have any teeth yet.
It was like that.
Like this,
his eyes went wide because I think that was the first time I spun him around.
And on impact, he put his fingers in front of his eyes. So he got both his eyes. Matt, before we dive into a packed show before nap time, where can all the beautiful people find us?
It's at BOD Podcast on Twitter, brothers_of_discussion on Instagram. We do have bodpodcast.com as the hub. No more blogs going up because even though everybody and their mother says that's how you get people to visit the podcast, nobody ever went to the blog. So I think we're going to stop paying for that and just have a nice little homepage where you guys can find all the links and stuff. And all the content will be where the content is. That's the long and short of that. If anybody's been like, hey, where's the blogs that had all the show notes? Go to YouTube. There's show notes in there. All right.
Yeah, go to the YouTubes. Matt, I'm going to start you off with a hot tag question. I hope you got that graphic ready.
I certainly do.
Matt, AEW employs CM Punk, Adam Cole, Ruby Soho, and Bryan Danielson. Cult of Personality, Ruby Soho, Ride of the Valkyries, and whatever that Adam Cole song is. Of those four, I need you to power rank those right now. Boom.
All right. I just heard Ruby's a second ago, right, on Rampage. So I'm gonna I've watched all the videos a million times of these guys debuting. It's gotta be, I'm gonna go 4, 3, 2, 1, but it's Soho, Bryan, Adam Cole, CM Punk.
Wow. Bet I'm gonna go number 1 is Adam Cole. I think that is just a cool song I would just listen to, even though I don't know what it's called. And allegedly he's had it, I don't know. The Young Bucks were bopping their heads to it, really seemed to enjoy it. So it made me feel like I should know this song. Number 2, I'm going to say is Cult of Personality, because that's just in my regular Spotify rotation. Always will be. And now I think of CM Punk. Number 3, Soho. Number 4, I love Ride of the Valkyries, and I get what they're going for, but not feeling it. I don't think I'm going to be super jazzed when I see it and hear it live in person, but I will be singing Ruby, 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 Soho. And I've never taken time to listen to Rancid until now. So Ruby at number 3, Punk number 2, and number 1, I really love that Adam Cole song.
Yeah, I think for me the Danielson one right now is clicking more than the Ruby one because of that moment and because I've watched Bryan coming out so many times, and it's such a great moment. I've watched the backstage one. I've watched, just watching All Out over and over again. That's, I mean, some of the questions that I want to go over was that perfectly booked? But that's why right now I think I'm rating it over Ruby, was because I think I texted you at the time. Like I was just waiting for the Casino Battle Royale. I was just waiting for Ruby to come out, and it kind of took a little bit away from that match. So that debut wasn't as special for me as giving us the swerve Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson coming out. But Mike, I asked everybody on Twitter, who are you most excited for after an episode of AEW Dynamite? But I was surprised. I thought we'd really see one of these guys stand out of the 4 of them. So we're one match into CM Punk's AEW career. By the way, my favorite thing about this was that somebody took, they were really upset. New wrestlers? These guys are seasoned vets. Oh, okay, buddy. Yeah, new to AEW. I think I got to the point, like, we went for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, if you guys are watching on YouTube. But my favorite one was I told him to just keep scrolling, but he kept going. So I kept fucking around and asking him, if he needed help finding links to All Out so he could see that they debuted. Anyway, I was proud of myself that I guess he got to me, but I wasn't like angry while I was doing it. I was having fun. But anyway, Mike, for the listeners who can't see the Twitter poll, which new wrestler are you most excited for after an episode of AEW Dynamite? At the bottom of the list, unfortunately, but probably as we know the wrestling community, we could predict, is Ruby at 17.1%, despite the fact that she has been shot straight to the main event scene. She is who everybody's least excited about.
Yes.
Now, I'll tell you my answer in a minute, but number 2 is a tie. Actually, we should say just tied here. 25.7%. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson. And then at 31.4% is Adam Cole, baby. Mike, I would absolutely do some adjustments here. Can I do a hot tag for you? Can you rank these 4 with your new context, an episode of Dynamite? You could throw in an episode of AEW Rampage. So you have 1 extra episode of AEW programming. Mike, hot tag. With some new content, who are you most excited for? Or you know what? I'll put you on the spot. Rank them 1 to 4, or 4 to 1.
I'm going to go 1 to 4 because that's easier for me. Most excited about Bryan Danielson. Everything he does is a dream match. What if he just fights like Sonny Kiss next Wednesday? That's a dream match for me. Number 2 is still probably CM Punk. He's still one of my favorite storytellers, and he hasn't let me down so far. Number 3, it's got to be, I'm sorry, Adam Cole, and 4 for Ruby. And I think this is almost directly correlates with what kind of opportunities the 4 of them have gotten on the microphone. And I think we just need to hear some more from Ruby. And so far what we've gotten is just physical altercations. And unfortunately, this is what AEW does with their women. They, will kind of do a musical chairs for who's next to fight for the championship, but not a lot of story yet. Not a lot of meat on those bones. And so far, I've already heard 2 Adam Cole storytime babies, CM Punk multiple promos, Bryan Danielson tearing the house down by saying, I have a question. Who wants to see me beat up Kenny Omega? Yay! And that's all it took. I hope that Ruby, so that partially that excitement is just about the opportunities they've gotten. So I'm optimistic for Ruby, but I hope she gets a shot. I hope they let her speak.
And I a follow up here. I'm going to lead the witness here, but I mean, does it hurt Ruby? I would say a little bit here, considering she is going to have a title opportunity, but there's absolutely no chance that Britt Baker is going to lose that title.
I feel like the same could be said for the other people debuting. I don't think that they're going to let Bryan defeat Kenny Omega that quickly. I don't think that's Bryan's goal to come in and win the belt and just dominate Roman Reigns style for 2 years. It seems like Cole is going to be focused more on storylines. Punk is going to do that a little bit more. I think the thing with Ruby is that when she debuted, I wouldn't have put her up against Thunder Rosa in the Battle Royale because it was a reminder of Thunder Rosa being one of the best wrestlers in the world. And I sometimes it slips my mind how great she is. And her false eliminations in that Battle Royale were so good. My God, it was like, the Shawn Michaels skinning the cat. I'm going to give Triple H credit when he was fighting then Dean Ambrose, and we really thought that Triple H was going to, take the fall, and we were going to watch Ambrose just skyrocket into the stratosphere. Yeah. Those trips where he was just barely catching his feet on the edge, and then Thunder Rosa, her regular stuff's good too, but God, if you want to win me over, just have a strong performance in a Royal Rumble type match, and that's what Thunder Rosa did. It was tough. I wouldn't have put her in the bottom 2 because by proxy, it would elevate, Thunder Rosa in my eyes and, probably lower whoever, just because she is so good. So that's just one humble opinion on Thunder.
Well, what about the last follow up to that? What about, do I sway you in any way to put Adam Cole higher on the list? If there is right now, I mean, we're not, you have context is how I was asking that, but you can also fantasy book. If you think, or could you put Adam Cole higher if you think Adam Cole could be here to destroy the Elite from the inside, if that's his story?
It's a pretty compelling story, man.
It would be a great story, and I'm here for it. And I think Adam Cole might be, he might earn that number 1 spot. Like if they start teasing that or hinting at it. But I would probably still agree with you that anything Bryan Danielson does.
I know. It's been like 7-8 years. Yeah, of course we're going to be doing it.
It's going to feel like a dream match. Also, watch on any new AEW programming. I would say anytime somebody's about to say Bryan Danielson, they do hesitate for a second. My favorite one was CM Punk when he did his AEW Dynamite promo. He hesitated for maybe 2.5 seconds before he said Bryan Danielson.
My favorite line of the week was right before Adam Cole came out, and Kenny Omega said, "Nobody here can beat me. Anyone who could is not here. They're tired, or they're already dead." When he meant to say they're retired.
Yeah, you had another one that you were ragging on Kenny.
Without further ado. Yeah. It should be further ado. Yeah.
Right. He does do that every time. So
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's because sometimes he does say bid you adieu. So he's confusing himself.
Yeah.
But that is something I don't think anybody has.
I'd add him, but then we'd be blocked. So I'm going to leave it here. Yeah.
I am 1,000% sure that you are the first person to catch that because he does it a lot. And there are supposedly creative writers that are involved with making these shows, and nobody has thought to say to Kenny Omega, "Hey,
I'm gonna pull you aside, Kenny.
Give me a button.
It's adieu." But we can't just keep giving him grief because we're about to talk about PWI 500, Matt.
Right, we're gonna pivot from the All Out Fallout because there's some other stuff to talk about too. But over to the PWI.
Man, I mean, this list gets scrutinized so heavily every year. No matter who's up top, who's on the bottom, who makes the list, it doesn't make the list. And I just thought it was important. We got another one just debuted, essentially for 2021. And I thought it was important to bring up two things. Who is voting? It is people who work for that magazine. There are some opportunities where fans get to vote, but it is, people will compose profiles for the wrestlers, and these are employees for PWI 500, so I would keep that in mind. And then I also thought it would be important, if we're going to talk about it today, to talk about the criteria that they use to decide who is at the top of a list of 500 wrestlers, Matt, which, you might think that's just how many people work for WWE, but not anymore after all the cuts they've made. So here's what we're going to do. Matt, this criteria includes a wrestler's win-loss record for the year, championships won for said wrestler, quality of the competition, major feuds that person has had, their prominence within a wrestler's individual promotions, and we have to include an S in that now that the doors have opened, the bridges are open, and you can travel to and fro if you wish. And lastly, kind of tough because a lot of these definitely feel subjective. I'll say 100% of them feel subjective, is overall wrestling ability. So I think it's important here, just do like the top 10 so you kind of get a feel for who it is if you haven't seen the list yet. And then I think it's important to look at the top 3 and kind of figure out how they rank those guys 1, 2, and 3. So Matt, going 10 to 1, Rich Swann from Impact, Shingo Takagi from New Japan, Finn Balor, of course, WWE, Will Ospreay, New Japan, Jon Moxley, AEW, Kota Ibushi from New Japan, Drew McIntyre, WWE, Bobby Lashley, or Bob Lashley as he's known now, WWE, Roman Reigns, the big dog at number 2, and number 1, Kenny Omega. Not his first time at the top. So I thought it would be kind of interesting because we know the win-loss records. Those guys up at the top have not lost many matches over the past year, right?
Right.
I'd say Kenny, Roman, and Bob, have held their respective championship on their respective promotion. If we're gonna, just pretend SmackDown and Raw are different promotions, and Kenny, they've all held it essentially. Prominence, they've all been the faces of the company. If you turn on Raw, you're going to see Bob. You turn on SmackDown, it's Roman. You turn on AEW, it's Kenny. And I would say arguably all 3 of these guys could go. Of the 3, Bob is an actual real-life fighter who I would never, ever dare to insult in real life because he would break you. Roman Reigns, he's every single pay-per-view. I don't think he's ever had a bad pay-per-view match. And then Kenny Omega, I think it's almost universally agreed upon. He's just excellent. So I got to think that in some capacity, this has to do with the stories and the feuds. So that's why I wanted to give you these three groupings. Okay, Matt?
Okay.
All right. So for Bob, obviously he had his feud with the Hurt Business in the past year. He was with Matt Riddle back when he still had a first name for a little while. And they were doing that U.S. title feud. Bob was up against McIntyre. The best Jew in wrestling, Goldberg, Kofi, and The Miz. Matt, if we go to Roman Reigns, he's got The Fiend, Jey Uso, McIntyre, Kevin Owens, Bryan Danielson, Edge, Cesaro, and Rey Mysterio. And then if we go to Kenny Omega, you got Jon Moxley, Rich Swann, Orange Cassidy, Pac, Sami Callihan, and Christian. Matt, of those three groupings, which one do you think is the most impressive?
Look, we're gushing about AEW, right? I mean, I think Kenny Omega is going to have a much better looking resume next year and still win number one. And I think this is where you look at it and go, championships won is the one of the key ingredients here.
Right.
I mean, I think Roman Reigns is clearly the most impressive of the three lists here.
It's not even close, Matt.
Yeah.
It's not even close. There's living legends in Mysterio and Edge and Bryan Danielson. And then just, fantastic wrestlers in Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, Cesaro. And, I mean, for storylines, The Fiend and Jey Uso, I don't think that's really a contest. I feel like Roman Reigns, far and away. I know he didn't win Impact Championship. I know he didn't win the AAA Championship. But goddamn, I mean, Roman Reigns has had one of the greatest years in wrestling history. I don't know how he's not number one. And bringing up this extra data doesn't tell the story.
I think if you're gonna sit there and discuss the wrestling ability, even though that's last on this list here, mm-hmm. I could still look at Kenny Omega and compare him to Roman Reigns and say Kenny is the more impressive pro wrestler. I think Roman Reigns definitely he's good, or he's great. What am I saying? But there's things that Kenny Omega can do. I feel like in a bunch of different scenarios, and Roman Reigns really has just like that one track of these are the things I do well in pro wrestling, and we have to make sure the match sticks to that so that I can highlight all of my best attributes. Can we agree on that? I mean, Kenny is the better pro wrestler of the two. Like the better,
as far as the quintessential diversification of moves, right? And I know we talked in past episodes where depending on who Kenny was facing, he's so good at kind of if he's he's in AEW, they don't employ that kind of classic WWE shape. So if he's fighting a guy that's smaller than him, he'll revert to being more the power guy. If he's facing somebody a little bit bigger than him, he'll, lean on his speed a little bit more. So yeah, I think that's a spot where you can say that he,
although I would say better at promos is Roman. So if you say overall wrestling ability, part of the wrestling ability is promos. I would say that go with Roman over Kenny.
If they, I don't know why that's not a listed criteria, but if being on the microphone was one of the criteria, I think you could make the case that all these guys fall. Bob, he just kind of leans on MVP. Roman Reigns he's good. I don't know if he's the great wordsmith, orator of our generation. And Kenny Omega is an absolute nightmare. I would say he's like an F. He's god awful on the microphone. Kenny, if you want to block me for that, I accept. I accept.
He could bid you adieu.
You bid me adieu. So
properly, a proper adieu for Mike.
Without further ado,
he's gonna tweet that out. Proper adieu. I mean, it is funny how his style of promo, I don't think gets enough flack because it is super goofy, despite the fact that they're trying to be more sporty. Where Roman, his delivery is like, I'm gonna fucking murder you. And that is his delivery. And it's just that, the whole idea of WWE it's more cartoony as a whole. Yeah. But I think that's why we all like that Bloodline storyline. I mean, to jump in, it is very interesting that you brought up the point that these guys are all the most recognizable faces in their individual brands, if we want to throw Raw, SmackDown, and AEW as a brand. And they all have a talking piece. They have a Don Callis, they have a Paul Heyman, and an MVP that make them, I don't know, Don Callis is probably the worst of those three. And again, we love AEW. We just gushed the first half of this episode.
I mean, Don Callis is really good at his job. I don't want to throw too much shade at him.
I don't know. I never think that his
job. Because I feel like he's really good at being kind of like that. Not at the MJF level of being like a self-aware villain, but knowing what like a classic like villain. God, what is the word? Like valet or escort or manager, like what that role is supposed to be, and he's really good at bringing that to the table. He knows it. What he's going to do, but he still says it anyway with a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek. But there's still enough vitriol in it to make you grind your molars over what he's saying. So I feel like he juggles that really well. So I personally give him a lot of credit.
I would just say I would review his ability to tell a joke as like, if you've ever heard anybody tell a funny joke and then there's that guy on the side that like repeats the exact same thing and then laughs about it, he could be the original deliverer of the joke, but he still sounds like that second guy. Like it still sounds like he's repeating somebody else's joke and he doesn't quite have it, or the timing's not right. The words are there, but it's not hitting. And that's how it always feels with Don Callis for me. I get what you're saying. I think it's just, if that is part of the character for him to just have these horrible, awful jokes that are just, I don't know. It just makes me go, Jesus Christ, Don. All right, that's enough. But I will say you're making a pretty good case here for Roman Reigns. I think it depends on a lot here on the in-ring wrestling ability and the championships one. I think it's really hard to compete with going brand to brand and getting those victories and holding belts. You also have to throw in there, like, who's beating top 10 guys. Roman has McIntyre, Lashley's got McIntyre, Kenny Omega's got Moxley mixed in there. Gosh, is that it? Man, Roman's about to get Finn Balor mixed in there, but that doesn't count for this past year. Oh, and Rich Swann. Yeah. There you go. So there, if you're going to say quality of competition, I think you're right in saying there's some legends on Roman's list. But if you're going to look at the PWI 500, and we're, like the kayfabe in it is that this is God. Let's just pretend that. Then you're also seeing a couple of guys in Kenny Omega's list that are featured in this top 10. So I think that's where his quality of competition probably gets a higher grade. And, it's also pretty wild that his major feuds, maybe don't result in being the main event of WrestleMania, they're feuds that crossed brands and felt like it was changing pro wrestling, like the industry. So I would, again, give the nod there. So I think there's a lot here that Kenny Omega did that goes certainly beyond his own brand. It goes beyond just what the storylines were. The only problem is, Mike, with me making all of these arguments, is that PWI makes the exact opposite argument and says, whoa, this is all kayfabe. Everybody calm down. Don't get too angry about it because we're just pretending it's about, in ring, and we pretend it's real to us. So I'm making all these arguments for Kenny. PWI says the exact opposite. And I think based on that, Mike, considering how hard they go into this is kayfabe, probably should be Roman Reigns, considering. It's a great point. It's I could make the argument, but all my arguments go against what PWI says. So fuck me.
Well, I mean, let's look at it this way. I mean, all these decisions, right, are predetermined. That's what wrestling is. But I guess with the outcomes of the matches, maybe for you and I, it's not so much, well, he beat Rey Mysterio. That's a Hall of Famer, so chalk that up. I think it has more to do with, like, when the match ends, does it feel right? So, when Kenny defeated Moxley, that felt like, it's pretty deserving. When he tumbled to Christian, we were kind of like, I guess if it's just the Impact title, right? It's not the AEW title. But, I mean, Roman Reigns is not that many years removed from just being loathed. Every booking decision, whether he won or lost, felt like the wrong move. And somehow he found a way to basically march through some of the most beloved names in WWE history. And people much more often than not agreed with the decisions. When he was defeating McIntyre, people were like, yeah, it's about time. When he defeated Owens, yeah, it's about time. When he he Burger King stack burgered Bryan Danielson and Edge. Man, it's only a couple of years ago that people would have been livid. They would have said, I'm never watching the WWE program again. But when that match concluded, I think we were all kind of in agreement that, yeah, it's just kind of Roman's time. He's earned that privilege to pin these two, we're going to be referencing this again later, but two, like, wrestling Mount Rushmore guys in Bryan and Edge. So it's a guy, if he can make you feel like those booking decisions make sense and they're like that huge of moments, that guy, those kind of guys with that kind of reputation, I really don't see how you don't have Roman number one, because all those really tough decisions, he made them work.
Well, moving on, if I promised that we'd come back to All Out and kind of get a little bit deeper into the fallout of I guess two big sections. It's more of the Punk, Danielson, Cole, Ruby Soho conversation, and then Mike, we'll start with this though, just to break it up a little bit. Did we watch the greatest tag match ever? Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros.
Maybe.
I like that. No, that's how I felt when we were talking about if Dragunov and Walter was one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I mean, we saw one of the greatest solo matches and title matches, and maybe one of the best tag matches ever. Got that image of Penta with the blood like oozing out of the holes in his mask. Oh my God. But yeah, the emotion in that one, just the physical ability. I know we like referencing people like Sean Ross Sapp, my buddy David Shoemaker. I like him a lot. God, I'm trying to remember the quote that they had about that match, but they were essentially just saying, like, Shoemaker was just saying that if you know that there's going to be eyeballs on like an AEW production, right? Like, okay, we're going to have CM Punk wrestle for the first time in 7 years. Oh my God. Like the buys for that pay-per-view were really high. He's like, if you want to help get, certain portions of your division over, and get people to tune into AEW again, just put the Bucks and put the Lucha Bros in the ring and give him 20 minutes. And I agreed with that statement because I was one of the people who thought, Jungle Boy was an easy no-brainer to put him in there with Jurassic Express against the Young Bucks. But as much as I love Jungle Boy and Jurassic Express, that was one of the most perfect booking decisions I think I've ever watched. The right team went over, but I think it was one of those rare times where everybody looked stronger without you, like in a WWE 50-50 booking style, kind of having to roll your eyes. It was, man, I think it was poetry in motion, man.
Yeah, the ending to that match of Ray laying it all out, where it really looked like, for both teams, they were trying to figure out, well, what else do we have to do? And my favorite part, though, the entire match, and I don't think we get enough of this, was Penta holding down, and I'm sorry, I don't know if it was Matt or Nick that were on the outside, or Matt or Nick that was getting pinned.
Oh, the tackles, you could get the tag in.
So they could get the pin, right?
Or the pin, yeah.
Yeah. I just want to make sure we were thinking about the same thing.
Yeah.
That type of thing is so underrated. I feel like, or maybe it is properly rated at this point, because I know a lot of other people get excited about it too. But Ray makes that move, and this becomes like, no, we need to get this pin right now, or else that dive was wasted. This whole match is not going to go our way, and they beg for the sporting feel. That was the sporting feel right there, and I hats off. That was, for me, that's going to go down as something I go back and watch. And I think that's how you and I try to judge everything. We used to judge things by hot dogs, but we try to judge everything most of the time by how many times we're going to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
That is a match you could watch start to finish. No problem. Lickety split. You'll be through that sucker. You'll blink and you'll be at the end of that jump by Ray. And I think it's sold that much better because we wanted, they held off so long, given the Lucha Bros like that signature victory over the Young Bucks. I'm so tired. And I think I saw, we discussed with a couple of our buddies on Twitter, like, this is long overdue, and almost some anger mixed with that. But I think that added to it. At least it was something where you make an amazing point, or bringing up others' points, that if you're trying to get people to believe in this brand, put the two best tag teams that you've got together and, let them go, right? But you're also serving up something for the AEW faithfuls that have been begging for the Lucha Bros to get a win. And this was that opportunity. So they're going to turn in a great match. We're sitting here asking, is it one of the best tag matches we've ever seen? And that enough right there is like says it all. Like, we're actually having that conversation. But I think the storyline to it was weak at the start, but the story moving through the match, and then of course giving the Lucha Bros the ultimate victory, I think is what sells this for me, and is going to be something that I want to relive. But Mike, other things I'm going to be reliving that I've already relived probably 50 times were all those debuts. And I guess I want to focus on the end of the show and ask you if it was perfectly booked.
I think we talked so many times about are they really going to? Well, I did. Are they going to blow their wad in one night? And they did. They did stuff all those debuts in a one night, but it didn't feel. It didn't feel like it was too much. It just felt like the story worked, and it was just so funny that so much happened. Like, you kind of forgot. Oh yeah, CM Punk had his first match back in 7 years. But yeah, I in the same way that the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks, we're gonna have a lot of eyeballs on the show tonight, guys. Let's really go all out, so to speak. For them to do that and like have all those eyeballs, like having people like watching at home and turning to each other like, whoa, man, we just saw one of the best tag matches ever. We saw Punk and Darby reenact, if you're historian, Bret Hart versus 1, 2, 3 Kid match, and now we're gonna watch Bryan Danielson, the Yes guy, and Adam Cole. I can't wait to watch more of this. And so it was perfectly booked because it made that night special. It was in front of the right crowd. God bless Chicago wrestling fans. And it got you really psyched for Wednesday. It got you really psyched for Fridays. It got you psyched to watch wrestling at 10 p.m. Eastern time on a Friday night, Matt. So I as far as perfectly booked, yeah, this was the opposite of an exploding, death wire match, whatever that exploding barbed wire death match. Because nobody had one negative thing to say. It was just universally loved, accepted, and I think people just kept watching it because it was so good.
Well, it's this is the official title of the episode, was what the future was going to be for our 4 newbies. I want you to pick one and then go 2 steps into the future. So first step, just for an example, for Ruby would be fight Britt Baker. And then what's step 2? So if you want to pick anybody, and I figure we'll run through the 4, and then I'll pick one, then you pick one, and I'll pick one. Or unless you want me to go first. If you want a second.
Yeah, you go first.
I'll go first. Yeah, because I guess.
Teach me this game you just made up.
Yeah. So it's less of a game and more just let's talk about how we think this is gonna go. Let's fantasy book it. It's only a game, I guess, from the perspective that I'm gonna go and then you're gonna go and you're gonna have somebody eliminated because I'm picking one. I think I'm gonna go with the easiest one because let's go CM Punk. I think this booking, these next 2 steps for Punk go Team Taz and then TNT Championship. I think he's gonna look at that TNT Championship and see what it means to this brand. That even though I still think it's the silliest looking title in pro wrestling with the television channel as the middle of the belt, God, I wish Brody had something more beautiful to attach to his name, but it still has that attachment to it, and I think it is important for Punk. And I think it's pretty obvious that Team Taz is next, but I think it makes the most sense with this absolutely stacked roster now for Punk to go after that TNT Championship after Team Taz.
I will say for Adam Cole, it feels like his path is already lined up. That he's going to be doing battle against that grouping of, Kavarian, Hanky. God, why do I always screw up his name? I always get like my NHL dyslexia. Frankie Kazarian. I have to write it down so I can say it correctly. I'm so sorry. But he's going up against the Frankie Kazarians, Christians, Bryan Danielson, and Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and God. I would not be upset at all if Adam Cole had a singles match against Marco Stunt at a pay-per-view. That would be incredible television. But I think we kind of alluded to it earlier. I think what he's going to do is prove himself here with some victories against that grouping. I would think that one of his pay-per-view matches is going to be against Jungle Boy. And maybe once January rolls around, recruiting Kevin Owens, recruiting the Young Bucks, and kind of breaking up the Elite, man.
Does you probably, it feels like you put in more thought into this than I have with my short answer, but do you think anybody, just to jump back to section 1 of CM Punk, do you think anybody on Team Taz, and I guess I'm pretty much just going to stick with Hobbs and Hook, are either one of them going to sniff a win, or is this just going to be a couple of Dynamite episodes and Punk's done and moving on?
I could definitely see, because I don't think Punk's going to have an extended, undefeated streak. He's going to lose some, shenanigan matches. Much like we got to see Andrade get a victory over Pac.
You know what? You're nailing it. Because they'll extend the feud with Team Taz by doing that.
Yeah, so I think that maybe eventually Punk will get a win over Powerhouse, but it'll come at the expense of some people cheating on the outside. But I think eventually what Punk's goal is to probably go up against Ricky Starks, and those are gonna be some pretty electric promos. So I'm pretty pumped for that. So yeah, you get another draft pick here, Matt. And then I get the last one, I believe.
Oh, right. All right. So, Mike, here's the problem. I was Googling something and I missed everything you said about your person. So who did you pick?
You son of a bitch.
I know, I'm such an asshole. All right.
Let's see if you get lucky and don't pick him, man.
All right. I'm going to go with right. You said Frankie Kazarian, right? That's who Adam Cole's facing next, right? So I get to pick Bryan Danielson.
Matt, I know our listenership is already low. You could at least be listening while you're in the episode. Yeah, Adam Cole was my pick.
No, I it all came back to me like instantly. It's late. I
know.
But I didn't remember because of Frankie. So okay. So I think I don't know if I want to consider step one like the pre Kenny Omega battle, or just say like it's leading up to the Kenny Omega battle. I think there is something to the idea that they do want to get eyes on the fact that Bryan Danielson is on their show. So he's going to fight through the Elite, but I think ultimately they're going to try and build up his win-loss record, Danielson, and then put him up against Kenny, just so that it makes more sense for their power rankings and stuff. And we're not sitting there going like, what happened to Hangman Page? Speaking of, I think that is probably a mixed in step, or maybe it's two steps mixed together of Hangman Page going up against Bryan Danielson. And I think there's a great shot that the Elite ruins Danielson's shot at winning the title. And I think they are going to, they're going to have to fudge some 50-50 booking. And step two is going to be Hangman saying, I've been waiting around for this shit forever. I want Kenny Omega. You couldn't get it done. Doesn't matter that they cheated. You screwed up. So his part two is actually laying down for Hangman, so Hangman can go get Kenny Omega, which would be, and that's Hangman's part three, I guess. What happens after that? I figure, they're at some point they're going to figure in a Punk Danielson feud. So if Punk's beaten Miro for the TNT Championship, that's where those two guys like, well, what do we do next? Well, there you go. Now you guys fight. But I'm a huge fan of the 1-2 steps here for Danielson. I put together, just kind of piecing it together, trying to figure like how do they keep the title off Bryan, and then they still. You and I agreed, like, even if they brought in all these guys, they still need to turn the title over to Hangman. I don't know if we're waiting until November for that, or if we're waiting till the next pay-per-view starts next year, which I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but we could be waiting that long. But I think ultimately they want to do that big face, taking out the Elite, maybe with the help of Danielson at his side or something like that. But yeah, I guess the Dark Order too. But yeah, that's ultimately how I see that those two steps going for Bryan.
This is the hardest one. It's Ruby Soho. She obviously
could be the easiest one.
Well, she's pretty obviously going to be going up against Britt Baker. And probably fighting against Reba, and she's already fought Hayter. I think the toughest part is after that, because it's literally a who's who of people who fought Britt Baker, and then they've just kind of floundered. Abaddon had her quick run in where she was, kind of relevant for a while. She's going up against Hikaru Shida. She had a little bump with Britt Baker. Now she's just kind of floating off in outer space. I don't know what this means for Statlander. I don't think she's getting another title shot anytime soon. Nyla Rose is just kind of there as the powerhouse. She's on TV occasionally. We know Ty Conti kind of had a quick quick brush, and now she's also kind of floundering. Same thing with Red Velvet. So I think the toughest thing for Ruby is I think she's the one who's got to grab the division, by the ovaries, if you will, and get it to the point where we actually have a storyline outside of what's going on in the main event picture. For a little while, we had that run where Thunder Rosa was getting a lot of segments. Ty kind of had that budding friendship, kind of hanging out with Anna Jay. The Bunny and Penelope Ford are kind of forming some sort of alliance. I think that this might be where Ruby can finally, please let her get on the microphone. And then I'm not sure who she's going to recruit. I don't think it would be Thunder Rosa, as electric as that tag team would be, because I think the real money is going to be Thunder Rosa staying as a singles competitor. I think that the next step after Britt, it's got to be she's gonna have to be one of the few. Give me a microphone, let me tell a story. So I hope that's what they do. I don't know if she's going to be in a tag team again. We know she's got a lot of comfort doing that, but and we know some of these other women are starting to get tag teams together. I don't know if they're going to build a women's tag team division. It would maybe help them get on TV a little bit more, but I guess that's my goal, Matt, is for Ruby to tell a story outside of a championship run.
I like it. It might be something too where they want to get one or two more big signings in that women's division, and then really start rolling out. Let's do another title, which would be the tag titles. Have things start out on Dark, and you've got the extra Rampage show, so there's plenty of space. That roster, when I watched the Casino Battle Royale, I started rethinking any thought I had about the division being weak, and every lady that came out, I was like, shit, this division is now all of a sudden stacked. So it's exciting to see, but I do still land on the idea too that they might want to steal or find a couple other names to throw in that division before they add another title. Mike, one more name that might be added to the men's division. The possibility of it just got shot straight up because Kevin Owens / Kevin Steen's contract has been reported by, as previously mentioned, Sean Ross Sapp, is up in January. And Kevin Owens / Steen also tweeted out the location of Mount Rushmore.
The coordinates, yeah.
Yes. Referencing the stable of the Young Bucks, Adam Cole and himself. That stuff is just too juicy to pass up as a conversation. And of course, the whole contract was restructured recently because of all the COVID financial issues that the WWE is apparently having. But yeah, I guess I want to throw that out there and then mix it into the next piece of the conversation, which would be if you have any thoughts on that, and then if you heard what Mick Foley said about the WWE.
Yeah, throw Mick Foley in there too.
Well, do we have time to watch the whole thing? Because I may or may not have it queued up here. If anybody wants to
fire it up.
All right.
Because
you know what? Give me a sec. Everybody, as you're probably familiar, if you've watched the show before, Matt always forgets to add the audio, and now he's stalling for time. Oh my God, I just closed the window like an asshole. Hopefully this part's entertaining to listen to. Maybe not. Here goes Matt. He's loading the video again. Man, I feel like an asshole right now. We're almost there, everybody. Hang on tight. All right, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, this is hardcore legend Mick Foley. I'd like to title this video WWE, We've Got a Problem, because I think you do. And that problem is that WWE is no longer the place for talent to aspire to. Part of it is because AEW is doing a great job of attracting great talent, proven talent, building other talent, creating storylines. But part of it is a problem of your own making. I think younger talent sees the way that developmental characters are cut or left by the wayside, or in the case of Karrion Kross, greatly watered down and even made a joke of when they debut on the main roster. It's not broke. Don't fix it. If I was an aspiring talent now, big league talent with a major decision to make, I'm not sure that I'm WWE to do the right thing with my career. You guys did wonders with me back in the day. That was a different time, different place. If it was today, I'm not sure I would trust the powers to be with my career in their hands. And until that changes, WWE, you've got a problem.
All right. So I had to hesitate there because the video restarted, so I had Mick Foley going through it again. I hope y'all heard that. Mike, you heard it, right? You would have told me. You would have stopped me if you couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, the audio works.
Perfect. Yeah, so it does feel like Kevin Owens makes that tweet. I think he sees how much fun it is at AEW. All of his buddies are over there. I mean, like, rewind when Undisputed Era broke up. I went and made a video that said, Adam Cole is going to AEW because his wife and all of his friends are there. So why would Kevin want to pass up on that opportunity too? Some people said, this was Kevin's dream job, and he said so, is that he always wanted to fight for WWE. Guess what? He did. Mission accomplished. Won multiple titles. And now what? Just sit around and collect a paycheck and kind of fizzle out as some other guys have more prominent positions. Maybe he never, maybe he doesn't leave because he loves the WWE and Vince McMahon so much, but also think about, what would you do, Mike, if you had to pick? I think I'd want to go where my friends are at, to be completely honest.
So I think you have two choices. If you really want to fight in front of 15,000 people, 20,000 people max, and be on TBS inside the next year, but you're also keeping some artistic and wrestling, like kayfabe integrity, you go to AEW. If you want to be in Jumanji, or you want to be in The Mandalorian, or you want to be in the Suicide Squad, I think you might still want to go to WWE because you're going to be on Fox TV with commercials about NFL football coming up on Sunday or Thursday or Monday. So I think it just makes the decision a little bit harder for the wrestler. But what WWE's going to stop doing, and what it looks like they're already, kind of biting the bullet and looking long-term, is, yeah, we're probably going to let some, indie darlings walk. And, in the short run, maybe that'll work out for them. And, AEW will be happy to, have Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, CM Punk. But, we're going to go the Bianca Belair route. We're going to go the Brock Lesnar route. We are going to build our own guys. So we're going to get big people who are like 6'3", 6'4", and we're going to build superheroes. And you know what? You get to be in real commercials. You will be rubbing elbows with major sports. You're not going to be on the backup channel for TNT. So I think one of them is about artistic integrity, and that's very, very appealing if you've been in the WWE program and want to express yourself like you used to on the indies and not feel like you have to be, a neutered, watered down, Karrion Kross with a, knockoff Halloween City Mad Max costume. You can just go to AEW and kind of be yourself and have free reign and, say what you want in your promos. But it's hard to turn down a big bag of money. And, that kind of numbers, those take care of families. So I think that Mick is right that in AEW being a real choice, but man, if you're looking at bills and you're looking at your future outside of professional wrestling, it's got to be really hard to turn down WWE.
No, that's you bring up an amazing point. It just, I think for a guy like Mick Foley said himself, like if it was him making this decision, he probably would go with AEW over WWE if that was the same case, back when he was as big as he was. And we know that Mick loves pro wrestling, so it depends on where your priorities are at. I think is the long and short of it. So I think that was a perfect answer, Mike. But I would also look at Kevin Owens and Kevin Steen, and why is this? Why is it Kevin Owens? Well, it's because he took his name, his son's name, and attached it to his own for his WWE name, and then of course his son is named after his favorite wrestler of all time. So wrestling is pretty deep into Kevin's blood. So I would say he would be a guy I would look at and say I think he'd be happy with what the financial situation would turn into and the future prognosis for any other post wrestling career, and he'd want to go back to wrestling. Also, that's kind of what it feels like. All these guys are just Ring of Honor guys, so they want to be buddies again out in AEW. This is Ring of Honor just graduated. It's basically what it feels like is going on. So to that, I think it also relates, Mike. WWE, who maybe bidding adieu to a few of their superstars, brought in Gable Stevenson, and if that isn't a WWE signing, and as you put it, let the indie darlings go, and we're going to keep doing what we do best. I think Gable fits that to a T. They bring in an Olympic gold medalist. They bring in a guy who immediately tweets, "This is my dream." And I don't know how much PR is mixed into that, to make sure he gets that out, because they're in the middle of this conversation online with Mick Foley that is pretty one-sided. And then on the heels of the AEW signing. So if this, as a couple of pro wrestling fans, I'm not going to go back and read this tweet for the rest of my life. It's definitely not a moment. Even in his debut, it'll be like, all right, let's see what this guy's got. So this is going to be all about how much can he add to the name and become something bigger than an Olympic hero, and add that to to who he is and make it a professional wrestling character. But in the same week, it means very little to me when AEW is bringing in Danielson, Cole, Punk's fighting for the first time.
It's long game for sure. So we'll see how long it takes for that guy to kind of figure out, the pro wrestling style as opposed to the amateur. But I mean, this is WWE, and we know that they've got guys like that. The Lesnar lookalike, the Parker Bordeaux, I think his name is. Yeah. So these guys they're growing. It's just, AEW is getting fresh tomatoes right off the vine, and WWE is out there, planting crops. Yeah. So right now it looks really good for AEW, but I mean, we'll see. Part of the problem too is not always, it's not just the talent, because we know that there's talent on both shows. It's just what kind of, entertainment and production value am I getting when I want to watch wrestling, and I'm not getting a lot when I watch a 3-hour marathon of Monday Night Raw, but I am entertained when I watch Dynamite. So that's an issue too.
I was entertained watching SmackDown, and I think this is how we'll wrap up the show, because this was another good use of Roman Reigns and the Bloodline storyline, with Brock making his return to SmackDown, and another part of our title of the show is the return of Demon Balor. But Mike, Brock came back. The highlights of this, and it's just one of these things. I feel like we have to hit on something that happened actually on one of these shows, right? Like talk about it in the way we're about to. But Brock Lesnar asks Paul Heyman why he didn't tell Roman Reigns he was going to be at SummerSlam, inferring that Paul and Brock talked, and Paul knew he was showing up, and he just never informed Roman. The way that this is turning, I could not be more intrigued, and it's just so exciting right now, because the looks in the ring. Paul looks like he just pissed himself. But then as it continues, Brock is about to lay out Paul Heyman with an F5, and the Usos come in to fight Brock, and Brock takes out both the Usos. I mean, immediately you're like, all right, well, there goes the relationship with Paul Heyman and Brock, but you didn't hit it, right? So
didn't actually connect.
There's still that chance, and we know Paul Heyman's been hit with worse and sided with the guy that's done wrong to him. So I would say there's a lot of intrigue here for Paul Heyman to still turn on Roman Reigns or whatever's going on. This is just such a juicy story. But it got even juicier at the end of the night. Usos defend the tag titles and beat the Street Profits. And it's Demon Balor making his return at Madison Square Garden. I just, to me, that was something where I would not expect a moment besides Brock Lesnar coming out. I wasn't expecting a huge pop moment, but the fans watching that show live really did justice to the Demon Balor reveal, because it was hinted and everything, and it looked like it was possible it was going to happen. But him coming out, hats off, as we say all the time, hats off to the fans watching SmackDown tonight, because that was one of the bigger pops I think I've heard for a guy that's already on the roster, just coming out to say hello. That was humongous, and it shows the power of Finn Balor and Demon Balor. And I don't know. I think it's funny that WWE gets in trouble with AEW, and their break glass, if needed, right now it was in NXT. It was put Finn down in NXT, and now on SmackDown it's bring back Demon Balor. And not a single point in between those two thoughts did they go, he needs a really lengthy title run on the main roster, because I have no confidence whatsoever in him actually beating Roman. But they know that there's money and interest in having Demon Balor on their TV. So
I just wouldn't be too sure if we're gonna bust out like Demon Balor is undefeated, unlike Balor, who seemingly loses every title match on the main roster. In some capacity, I got to think Lesnar's going to interfere, cost Roman a title, and Brock and Roman will fight, and then Demon Balor can kind of run the gauntlet as a champion, and they'll hopefully kind of spread the wealth a little bit, where you don't have to have Roman being the most interesting character and be the champion. We can kind of spread that out like Undertaker style a little bit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think that would really make SmackDown an even better television viewing experience, to not feel like I just have to watch the Roman segments to get a feel for what the main storylines are going to be on pay-per-views. But yeah, it's I wish WWE, not that I want to say panicked, but that they showed a little bit more urgency, to be like, yeah, we do have Finn Balor in our back pocket. Also, I was just thinking, we're really low on tag teams. What if we just got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn together? I mean, they're already best buddies, and it would be like everybody's favorite storyline immediately. I mean, they're just sitting there. Yeah. We've never done it. I mean, do you think they? I don't know. Would they?
They did it once before. Yeah.
Would they say yes? I don't. Do you think they'd say yes? I don't know if they'd say yes. I don't want to guess. I don't know. I don't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe
they'll sign a contract extension if we can make them happy.
Maybe if we make them friends on TV, they'll be friends with us in the negotiating room. Okay, I'm gonna text them.
Well, yeah, I think ultimately this just, puts a smile on my face to think about. I'm a little bit more excited for Extreme Rules, as I like to say, because of that big old W inside of Extreme.
Yep.
But yeah, Extreme Rules should be super fun because of that. But yeah, not too much to take away yet, and I think the more interesting conversation will happen when we have to complain about Demon Balor taking the loss, when they're trying to find a way to define pro wrestling post AEW's huge night. Right. Like, do you do another throwaway pay-per-view, like waiting till we get to the Royal Rumble, or do you look at what AEW did and you're like, fuck, let's try and do a banger of a pay-per-view? Because again, I think you could have the conversation of easily best AEW pay-per-view. But some people were saying this All Out was better than WrestleMania 17. I would say, right, recency bias. I'm acknowledging it was a fantastic pay-per-view, and with all the pay-per-views that exist in pro wrestling, I'm gonna give a cold take, pretty weak sauce here, Mike, but I have no problem saying, without giving it a ton of thought, I'm gonna say it's probably in the top 10 of wrestling pay-per-views.
Can I just sprint through that card real quick?
Yeah.
Jericho versus William Regal for the Intercontinental Championship. Okay.
Oh,
Taz.
He threw me off. You went back to WrestleMania.
Taz and APA versus Right to Censor, which was just a 6-man tag. Man, it was a 3-minute match. Kane defeats Raven and Big Show. Hardcore match.
That is
okay. That is a pretty good match.
That was supposed to be our wrestling match book club first match, and nobody signed up for it except for Pluggo.
That's a pretty good match. Eddie Guerrero versus Test. I don't want that. Kurt Angle versus Benoit. No championships. They were just fighting. That was a pretty good match. China versus Ivory. It was like a 2-minute match. It was a turd. Shane versus Vince. And then, then we got the TLC, Edge and Christian, Dudley's, Hardy's. That's one of the best matches of all time. They did a gimmick battle royale, which, Undertaker versus Triple H, and then the main event, Stone Cold versus The Rock.
I guess that even that Stone Cold versus The Rock, the ending was kind of... I feel like it's
7 or 8 really good ones, though.
Yeah, I'm partial to WrestleMania 23, but that's because it was in Detroit. I don't know. This is too long of a conversation we want to have right now. But the point of me bringing that up was that should Extreme Rules be pay-per-view, or is it just going to be, well, we'll get this one out of the way, and we'll be, now we're just we got to do a couple more months of content before we can start talking about the Royal Rumble and pretend none of this matters.
Hold on. Before we jump away, this was the card for AEW. Just a quick reminder. Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage, which
it was good,
but
not a lot of backpack.
Yeah, I fell asleep a little bit. Sorry, not a Christian fan. CM Punk versus Darby Allin. That was a pretty good match. I really like that. Chris Jericho versus MJF. That was a pretty good match. I really like that. Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander. I really like them, but I don't think that was a Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match.
Yeah, that's easy. Yeah, that's easy to say.
All right, Young Bucks versus Lucha Bros. All right, that was a pretty good match.
All right. Is this your Beetlejuice Michael Keaton impression?
Yeah, saying words up in here, Miro versus Eddie Kingston. It was a lot of fun. I don't think it was, Kane, Raven, Big Show fun, but it was a lot of fun. All right, Moxley versus Kojima.
It was a party.
It was pretty good. Paul White versus, come on. No, Woo! QT Marshall.
Oh my God, that was such a fucking waste of time.
All right, the Casino Battle Royale. Definitely better than the Gimmick Battle Royale.
Man, when you go through these match cards for both of these shows, what are we doing? What are we
doing here, guys? WrestleMania 17 was incredible. I mean, AEW All Out. It was, I think, the beer glasses, right, from all those debuts. But the matches.
The show. That
is part of the show.
Yeah, you can't take that away.
So now AEW is the corporate production, and WrestleMania 17 was the wrestling show. I mean, what are we doing here, guys? I don't know. Can we just say both are really entertaining, and I look forward to watching both.
Yeah, but that, you remember why I brought it up, and it was just to say that.
Matt, final hot tag before we get out of here.
Jesus.
Matt, you're on a desert island. You get one Blu-ray to bring with you. Are you bringing the 2021 All Out Blu-ray or the 17 Blu-ray?
Probably because of nostalgia, probably WrestleMania 17.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps us up then. We had some good hot tags today. Everybody, go check out. Let's see if I can pull up this overlay real quick. Go check out our shop. It's bodpodcast.com and brothersofdiscussion.com. Matt's got to do some more work here to put some other t-shirts up. I was thinking we need some more Brothers of Discussion shirts, but like in like some AEW script or WrestleMania script or something like that. I just gotta figure out.
Brothers of Discussion are all elite.
Yeah, that's a good one. We'll get sued for that one, but it's a good one. But yeah, that's bodpodcast.com, brothersofdiscussion.com. It's shop pages on the homepage. Just click on that. You'll see all of our fun shirts, like the hot tag shirts. And then there's Sister of Discussion. If that's the best way to support the show financially, the easiest way to do it is go to Apple Podcasts, subscribe, rate, and review. Give us those 5 stars. Let everybody know that the two brothers have some pretty good wrestling takes, and you want everybody else to hear more. So with that, everybody, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.